Ask most people today which political party is the party of civil rights, and they'll likely answer the Democrats. This is what most have been taught in school, by the media, and by popular culture. But this narrative is not only misleading, it's demonstrably false. A deeper look at American history reveals a far more complicated and surprising truth about the two parties and their records on civil rights, particularly for Black Americans. To understand how we got here, we must revisit the origins of both parties. The Democratic Party, founded in 1829, was, for much of its history, the party of slavery, segregation, and Jim Crow. The Republican Party, on the other hand, was founded in 1854 as a direct response to the expansion of slavery. Its core mission was to abolish this horrific institution, and it was the Republican Party that ultimately led the fight for emancipation and equality. The Republican Party's commitment to civil rights is rooted in its very foundation. From its inception, the party attracted abolitionists, reformers, and anti-slavery advocates who believed in the equality of all men. This commitment was tested during the Civil War, when Republican President Abraham Lincoln led the Union to victory against the slaveholding Confederacy. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, issued in 1863, freed slaves in Confederate territories, and his unwavering support for the 13th Amendment ensured the abolition of slavery in the United States. Following the Civil War, Republicans continued to champion civil rights during the Reconstruction era. They fought for the passage of the 14th and 15th Amendments, which granted citizenship and voting rights to Black men. Republican-led Reconstruction governments in the South worked to integrate Black Americans into society, establish schools, and protect their newfound freedoms. Sadly, these efforts were met with fierce resistance from Democrats, who sought to maintain white supremacy and undermine Black progress. The Democratic Party's historical opposition to civil rights is a matter of record. From the defense of slavery to the era of segregation, Democrats consistently fought against equality for Black Americans. They were the party of the Confederacy, the Ku Klux Klan, and Jim Crow laws. They enacted poll taxes, literacy tests, and grandfather clauses to disenfranchise Black voters, and they terrorized Black communities with violence and intimidation. Even after the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, when Democrats began to embrace the language of civil rights, their actions often told a different story. While Democrats like President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, these landmark pieces of legislation faced significant opposition from within the Democratic Party. In fact, the vast majority of Democrats in Congress, particularly in the South, opposed these bills, and it was Republican support that ultimately ensured their passage. How, then, did the Democratic Party become synonymous with civil rights in the minds of so many Americans? The answer is a complex one, involving a gradual shift in party platforms, strategic political calculations, and a degree of historical revisionism. By the mid-20th century, as the civil rights movement gained momentum, the Democratic Party recognized the need to appeal to Black voters, who had long been loyal to the party of Lincoln. Democrats began to embrace civil rights rhetoric and to distance themselves from their segregationist past. This shift, however, did not necessarily translate into genuine commitment to the well-being of Black communities. Some argue that the Democratic Party's embrace of identity politics, affirmative action, and welfare programs, while well-intentioned, has ultimately trapped many Black Americans in a cycle of poverty and dependence. Others contend that the Democratic Party's focus on social issues has come at the expense of economic policies that would uplift Black families and close the racial wealth gap. The truth is that the history of civil rights in America is far more nuanced than the simplistic narrative often presented. It is a history of progress and setbacks, of courageous individuals and institutions fighting for equality, and of political parties grappling with their own legacies and evolving identities. It is a history that deserves to be understood in its full complexity, free from partisan bias and historical revisionism.